Thanks for tuning into this on-demand video on the HID SIGNO reader line, its features, benefits, and some promotional material. Before we get into the content, I want to introduce your two speakers. I'm Luke Meridew and I'm joined by Kevin Beacom. We are both with the Physical Access Control North America business within HID Global. So the purpose of this video is to introduce, or to some of you reintroduce, the HID SIGNO reader line. I'm going to talk about the design objectives, kind of the broad purpose of the reader line, as well as its features and benefits. And I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, and he's going to compare HID SIGNO to the HID I-Class and HID Multi-Class SE reader line. It's important that we talk about this subject right now, since we just announced that the end of life and the end of sale dates for that core SE reader line. So we believe this material is pretty pertinent. He's going to continue to walk us through ordering tools and configuration before sharing some tips and tricks during the best practices section. So let's get right into it. So here it is. This is the HID SIGNO line, a long time in development, building on the strong legacy of our SE reader line, somewhat ubiquitous in the physical access control market. We've really, come on really strongly in that space. So with respect to the core portfolio, what does it look like? Well, we have the SIGNO 20, the SIGNO 20K, the SIGNO 40, and the 40K. As you can see, the two readers on the left are mullion form factor for those small architrave type mounting locations next to doors. We've added a keypad, which we haven't had previously in SE, so a big upgrade there. We've also switched out, as you keen eyes, to a capacitive non-mechanical keypad, so no moving parts there. So it's a big change for us, but it does actually work with fairly light gloves, which is pretty impressive. So I want to talk a little bit about here is really kind of how we got to this reader. What we did is we built upon that SE legacy. We used the new aesthetic, which was obtained through outreach to the A&E community, etc. But what we really want to do is make sure that we could support as many of the credential formats, types of credentials, and protocols as we could in this base reader, while providing capability for future upgrade. So adding that mullion form factor is another piece of that physical component, making sure that you can install the readers easily. We improved the pigtail as well as the terminal. The terminal is a low profile terminal for easy installation, as well as the how to order a piece, which is Kevin's going to go into in quite a bit of detail. We also added some features around what we call automatic surface detection, or ASD, which takes into account metal environments like elevator cars and turnstiles, where that metal can affect the RF performance. So that's built into every reader, an automatic function. The next piece is performance. Obviously, this is a big upgrade for us. These are readers that get hung on the wall and are installed and managed and used for many years. So, we wanted to make a powerful move to increase the performance that we had, which is already class leading. So by that we mean range and speed, as well as adding security features and making the reader more efficient. So we still have capability to use the intelligent power mode, which is great for getting lead credits. So efficient use there, even though we're adding a much more powerful CPU, we have more memory. We still have a secure element, and it's something that some readers do not have, very important for high security applications. But on top of all that, we're still able to deliver power efficiency. And then the final piece on this slide here is just environmental protection. So we have an IP65 rated product that's been upgraded again from SE. So the final section in this part of the presentation is really about connectivity. So being able to manage and configure and upgrade readers is super important. Being able to do that on the fly, add features for the future that may exist, respond to new types of credentials or threats, and doing that through the widest possible network of partners is also very important. Mobile is an actually intrinsic part of physical access control now, and it will be increasingly important. And so having a wide open set of protocols, Bluetooth, NFC, and the ability to do things like Apple Wallet are necessary to have a flagship product in this area. Kevin's going to talk quite a bit about Reader Manager, which is our principal tool for reader configuration, just a few minutes into his section.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Luke. Again, my name is Kevin Beacom. I'll walk you through the next few slides. We're going to talk right now about the comparison between the I-class and multi-class SE reader line with Signo. And as Luke already showed us, there's some nice close-ups of the different readers, different form factors with keypad and without keypad. And then jumping right into it, in the middle row, we have the Signo line of readers, and on the far right, we're going to have the I-class and multi-class SE reader lines. The highlighted sections are the ones I'm just going to touch on as we go through this. We're not going to do side-by-side comparison. But the key thing here is on the first one there, you see the mullion keypad. Again, this was based on market research and feedback from consumers and people like you. So we appreciate that feedback. We heard, we listened, and we applied it to the new reader. So we now have that mullion keypad. Moving down to the 2.4 gigahertz credential compatibility. What that means is every reader is shipping with mobile access enabled because Bluetooth is built into the reader. In the SE line, it was an additional module and an additional fee. Today, that is all built in from the factory with an integrated BLE module in it, BLE capabilities. Moving further down, you see the 125 or low frequency credential management side of things. We now have a wide variety of credentials that we can support out of the box, straight from the factory. It does not require any additional modules or anything like that. And so you see there we've got the HID Prox and Dala, the EM4102 as an example, are all compatible on the same base reader, straight from the factory. Again, just pointing out the key things that I think are differentiators for us and you would appreciate. And we already mentioned the terminal block, and so it now is a flush mount on the SE reader line. It protruded out ever so slightly. We, again, from market research and from feedback from people like you, we listened to you. We now have a flush mounting reader, even with the backplate on, everything fits flush to the wall. All right. Again, the capacitive touch keypad, you saw in the pictures, it's a 2x6 layout on the mullion style reader, and it's your typical 3x4 on the wall switch version. Luke already touched on the IP65 rating, which is an increase. No gaskets are required. It comes straight from the factory with the IP65 rating built into the reader. One thing we're very proud of is the controller communication enhancements as well. So now every reader comes straight from the factory with both Wiegand and OSDP options built into it. Previously, you needed an additional module for OSDP. That is no longer the case. It comes straight from the factory. Taking that to the next level, the cool thing is on that one is the data 1, data 0 are the same pin pad layout between Wiegand and OSDP. So making the installation hopefully very, very easy for your installers. Luke already mentioned the metal environment optimization at time of power on. The reader is going to go through its boot up sequence, and one of those items in the boot up sequence is to do a surface detection, and it's going to optimize that reader for the best read capabilities and making it compatible, whether it's in metal, as Luke mentioned, or in drywall, or whatever the surface area may be. It's going to maximize it. Okay, so that was the side-by-side. Now we're going to look at how you can go about ordering these. Okay, and so we broke it down into 4 credential profiles. So on the left-hand side, you've got the written pros around each one, and on the right-hand side in the table, you can see this pictorially. And so starting off with a CIOS profile, if you're, let's say, a greenfield opportunity and you don't have credentials today, why not start with a good high-frequency card, great high-frequency card actually, and match that up with a great reader that's going to support you, best-in-class security and best-in-class use cases as well supported. If you want a smart profile, it's going to cover all of the high frequency capabilities. Not all of frequency, will not have low frequency, but it covers more of the high frequency. It's going to have our iClass SE and the other legacy credentials, as well as the HID DesFire and MyFair cards as well. Moving to the standard profile, probably our most popular one. It is going to do both, it's equivalent to the multi-class reader, if you will, on the SE reader line. It's going to do both high frequency and low frequency. It's going to read all of the capabilities of our CIOS, our smart profile, and then we also added in the CSN read and the low frequencies, as you see there as well. Okay, again, straight from the factory. The key thing to note here is, as you are looking at these, is you can, with the reader, configure it with all of the capabilities and then take capabilities out. But if you bought a CIOS profile reader, you can't add other frequencies in. So think about your long-term plans for your environment and things of that nature. We can move left to right with the technologies, but you can't move, you can move right to left with the technology. You can't move right to left with increasing capabilities. You can left to right. And the last one is the custom profile. This would have all the capabilities of the standard profile reader, and it allows for custom DesFire and MyFair, custom MyFair data to be encoded into the reader. Okay, let's take a look at the way we used to do some part numbers. We called it semi-intelligent. And after a few iterations, you would get to know what all of these numbers would mean, the 900 as a model, and so on and so forth. Well, we abandoned that approach, and we've really simplified it. We decoupled the hardware from the configuration aspects of the reader. I'll just build this out. So you have your hardware profile, your hardware configuration. You've got your profile, which were the previous slides, the CIOS, Smart, Standard, and Custom. And then we have the configuration. So how do we want that reader to work, and what settings do we have active? I'm going to move to the next slide to walk you through this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so again, we've got our hardware. So hardware is all four of the form factors, your 2020K, 4040K, terminal strip or pigtail. Comes in black today. We'll have other colors in the future. Our different profiles, and then the configuration. So what does that mean? So you're going to have a 20 TKS, let's say standard reader 00, and its configuration is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the cool thing is as you see here, we can now reuse this configuration within the entire profile family. So if I went from a mullion style non-keypad and said, oh, hey, I want a keypad in the 40 style, done. So you're going to order a 40K TKS and the 00, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is what makes this unique for that particular configuration. If the LEDs were blue on this reader here, the 20, the LEDs will be blue on the 40. All of the same attributes come over because of that DCID, which stands for Digital Configuration ID. So that's how we can do that. Now moving over to the signal tools and resources. You've heard us talk a couple of times about Reader Manager. In the old days, we used to use config cards. We're no longer using config cards. Part of our digitalization journey to move more to a digital platform is to have HID Reader Manager. Probably most of you have seen, heard, or even used HID Reader Manager. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next few slides. So Reader Manager, we've got, it's based off of the HID Origo platform, where we're using the infrastructure already in place. You can push keys down to authenticate a Reader Manager technician, if you will. The keys go on to the technician's smartphone. You can then, with that keys, you can then go ahead and modify the reader performance. Okay. When we say keys, you can also touch standard keyed readers. There's just a few security steps that you're going to go through as far as powering it off and powering it back on. When you have a matched key set, the authentication is already done between the reader and the app, so power cycles are not required. Another reason why you'll hear later, we suggest that you go ahead and get your mobile access or elite keys added at time of order. Okay. This is all covered under a secure encrypted CIOS channel through Bluetooth. And you can see here it's going to cover both our Signo as well as our I-class, multi-class SE reader line. So one tool is going to cover both. On the I-class or multi-class reader, of course, it needs to be outfitted with the BLE module. If you wanted to upgrade it within the Bluetooth module, you could do that through Reader Manager as well. So again, we're going to allow you to inspect your reader, make configuration updates, and even do upgrades. What this does for us is we feel it makes things more cost effective. It's going to reduce your installation and maintenance costs, help eliminate will eliminate the need for configuration cards. Oh, it got lost. I don't know where it's at. Joe has it. I don't have it, etc. So it's secure again because we're leveraging the infrastructure of the HID Rigo Cloud Platform. We have a great amount of security built into that, and you can leverage that just like you would for mobile access. And with that, you can provide full control as to who has access and for how long. Again, that reader technician is what we call the person making the modifications to the reader. If you gave it to them for a day, a week, a month, let's say they finished the job early, you can revoke that at any time, unlike a config card that may or may not ever make its way back to you. So great amount of control is built into this. Again, we talked about a little bit earlier about some of the ability to do upgrades and stuff. So we'll call that future proofing. So as the new enhancements come out, you can make those improvements out in the field. Moving on to still talking about some of the ordering process. So again, we've got the typical how-to order guides. Most people are familiar with those. Again, part of the digitalization, we also have moved to a digital platform for configuring. So you can go to our digital configurator. It covers all reader lines. You can also look up part numbers and things of that nature. When you're in the configurator, you can build a reader to your specifications. In this particular case, someone created a blue LED at idle and the backlit keypads were white. And so that is a unique configuration. At the end of the process, you configure a reader and it will tell you right here that it's either a custom part or maybe a reader's already been built with the same configuration and you're good to go. If it's a custom part, you can save this configurator PDF, send it to your local HID sales representative, and they can help you get that built for your specific needs. Okay, some best practices. Final few thoughts from a best practices standpoint is, again, we just talked about the configurator can help you look at if you have an SE part number, what is that in equivalent Signo. Again, all your Signo readers come with BLE built in. So as I mentioned earlier, we would highly recommend you add in your mob keys or elite keys at time of order, and that would make it more secure. You can leverage your reader manager if you wish, and like I said, you have increased security by doing that. Remember, one DCID, so again, that's the digital configuration identifier, can cover your keypad and non-keypad versions. It can also cover your terminal strip and pigtail versions. So one DCID can cover all 8 form factors. OSDP is likewise also built in, just like the BLE module. And what we would say is leverage the opportunity to discuss. If you are evaluating new readers at this point in time, we would love for you to think about, do you want to stay on procs or do you move away? Highly recommend that due to the vulnerabilities of low frequency cards, their lack of security, that you would think about moving to high frequency. Once you move to high frequency, the second bullet there would help you with Reader Manager. You can turn off the low frequency credentials, and so you minimize your risk and minimize your attack vectors for someone with some nefarious intents. Okay, and lastly, while you're evaluating at this point in time, you would also think about using mobile credentials or virtual credentials. You know, why not put it on the phone? Do you really need a physical card in every single case? So some of the things to think about as you are moving through your journey for the new Signo readers. And bringing us home, Luke, I'm going to turn it back over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. I'm going to do a recap here, and then but do stay on. Don't skip forward yet. We do have some good content here that we want to share. But the first piece I want to cover is just talk about price. So we're going to talk about just the kind of the basic structure. So Kevin talked about, and he showed that slide with the increasing complexity of the technology supported with his chart. And essentially what we're doing is pricing accordingly. So the fewer technologies that you support, and also the higher the security, the lower the price. We want to encourage the good behavior, and to do the best behavior, of course, is to use the best-in-class security. That's a COS credential, whether that's virtual or physical or both. And so that's what we're trying to do with those small price premiums that we push on the right-hand side of this table here. We've talked about the BLE and OSTP to ad nauseum, so we won't re-emphasize that. As far as versatility is concerned, I mean, just look at the list of credentials. This is not exhaustive. We are unparalleled in terms of the amount of complexity that we can support in the product, and so it seems often that it's hard to pick our readers, and sometimes it is. We've done a lot of work to try and improve that situation, but I liken the Signo reader line to a Swiss Army knife without the compromise. If you think about a Swiss Army knife, you get all the possible tools you could carry in a pocket knife, but they're not very good. They're not necessarily the best knife, the best corkscrew, etc. But there are no compromises when it comes to the configuration of Signo. You get the best-in-class performance with however you choose to configure it. So, have you made the right choice if you've already purchased or you've already specified, or will you make the right choice by picking Signo? And I would say absolutely yes, and Kevin would agree with me, of course. Part of that comes from the flexibility and the versatility of the platform, but also comes from the partners that we work with. We're very proud of the relationships we have globally, and so we want to obviously give kudos where it's due, and we have the best partners and customers. Mobile is a super important part of any go forward plan with access. Not having sight lines to mobile is frankly pretty short-sighted unless there's some prohibition, but even in the most resistant markets we're starting to see movement there. And then upgrade and mobility, migration and mobility really has to be part of an overall strategy, and Kevin talked about the need to shut off those legacy technologies that were never built to provide real security. We built that into the reader. While we want people to move away from 125 kilohertz, we have included new features like software radio, which allows us to tune to get the best possible low frequency performance from that multi-technology reader. So we're definitely on the journey and want to provide those tools to make these things happen. So the final slide here is some good news. Now we understand we're strongly encouraging our customers to move away from I-Class SE and multi-class SE readers. We announced, as I mentioned, the end of life and end of sale. Although those are not immediate, we certainly want to get our customers prepared and start actively transitioning to the new product. And so we are offering a 10% discount across the entire Signo portfolio through September 30th of this year. 2021, and just a reminder is that if you choose those lower cost configurations, for example, the COS profile, they're already cheaper than the corresponding SE reader line. So some really great values to be had with this presentation, with this promotion. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention. We certainly appreciate you spending the time with us to watch this content, and we hope it was useful. Please reach out to either to your HID sales representative for more information on this content or the promotion, or if you want to learn more, or use the email address that you see pictured on the screen. Thanks again.